Yeah, I mean, just because that's what would have happened. When I told me that, I thought, well, okay. If that's what would happen in real life, then that's what's going to happen to him. Part because the books are set almost in real time, so you can actually go, well, look, that's the GA, so that was obviously that year, and here's the trams getting built, so that's obviously this year, and incidents that are happening in the real world get talked about. So you can't really have your detectives still being 40, from 1987 up to the present day. I just don't. Some people make it work. I don't know. Sue Grafton, Kinsey Mill Home.
Yes.
26 books in that series.
Yeah, it must be 90 by now.
Well, can you get them for P.D. James territory?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's going to be Adam Dalgliesh territory. Famously, a detective who should have been in his 80s or 90s when he was still going strong and still writing bloody bad poetry.
But then you rested Rebus after you retired, and then in Scotland they obligingly just you raised the retired age for police so you could go back and reapply for his old job.
Well, two things happened. One was that one of the things that I found that retired cops could do was work for this unit in Edinburgh called the SCRU, S-C-R-U, Serious Crime, blah 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 unit, and it was called Cases. And I got an idea for a book or a story that was a cold case, and I thought, well, I can invent a brand new cop who happens to be a retired detective, but I've got one here.
Yeah.
So why don't I use Rebus? And then during the writing of that book, there were moves afoot, or there were noises that they were going to bring up the retirement age by a few years, because they were losing a lot of skills and also couldn't afford the pensions. And I thought, well, could Rebus reapply? And a detective said, well, there's no reason why he couldn't. He might not get in, but he could reapply. So I thought, okay, he reapplies, he gets in, but they'd bump him back down to detective sergeant again because there's too many detective inspectors. And the fun with that was then going to be that Siobhan Clark, his one-time junior, is now his boss, or tries to be his boss as much as I possibly can. And I just like the idea that after 30 years of writing the books and everything else, Rebus was back to where he was in book one. He made no progress at all. Because once you get above detective inspector, you're really just sitting at a desk all day pushing paper around and doing meetings, which is why he's never, even if he could, it's why he's never gone up through the ranks.
I remember hearing people saying, well, if you want to reapply, you're going to have to ingratiate yourself with the top brass. So of course, that's not the Rebus way.
No.
But as you said, he would never retire, he wouldn't want to, because detection is his life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the figure of the detective is in many ways very like the figure of the novelist. We're kind of scrabbling through life looking for the answers to questions. What is this all about? What's going on? What is the state of the world? How did we get in this mess? How did we get out of it, maybe? Why are we here? I mean, all those big moral and philosophical questions writers throughout the ages have tackled for their own satisfaction, as a kind of form of therapy almost, as well as being fun. I mean, it's obviously a lot of fun getting to play God with all these characters. But that's what the detective does. The detective is trying to get to the truth. There's a lot of messy stuff going on, and a lot of people are lying, and a lot of people are hiding stuff. And the detective is trying to get to a central core truth in a case, and that reflects on the writer's task.
So are you like Rebus then, in the sense that you would never retire? Writing is your life. Would you wither like Rebus does?
Well, I mean, I can imagine. I've got to be careful because one of my publishers is in the room. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine a time when I'm not publishing anymore. I don't know if I can imagine a time when I'm not writing anymore. But I mean, I could take a sudden notion to write something that's unpublishable.
Have you any idea what that might be?
I mean, who knows? I mean, I've tried film scripts, and the scripts have never been made into anything. I was going to try and do another comic book. I don't know if I'll ever do that again, a graphic novel. No, I mean, I do get notions for kind of weird things, and usually what I do is write them as capsule stories. So basically a 2, 3, 4 page short story. And that's just a way of dealing with the idea. And in some cases, maybe later on I'll go back and it will become a subplot, or it could even become a full-length book. I mean, I wrote a novella once which became the meat of one of the Rebus novels, but it started life as an independent novella. Death is not the end, and then I managed to find, well, I didn't find a way to bring it into Dead Souls. It became the plot, one of the main plots of the book Dead Souls. Cannibalizing is what Raymond Chandler called it. When you take your stories, themes and ideas from your stories and use them in novels.
Cannibalizing your own work.
Cannibalizing your own work, yeah.
And just to ask about the forthcoming book, is Malcolm Fox going to appear in this one?
I don't want to give away a hell of a lot, but Malcolm has been moved up the echelons. Police has been a huge, tedious reconstruction in the way that policing happens in Scotland, which all Scottish crime writers have to deal with, and we're all furious about it. So there's this new headquarters called Garcosh, which is in an old steelworks in Lanarkshire, and all the top brass are there. So there's no longer 8 regions, so Lothian and Borders Police no longer exists. So there's no longer a chief constable, there's only one chief constable for the whole of Scotland. And what they do now in a murder case, this is the real disaster for people like me and anybody who's writing procedurals in Scotland, is that instead of the normal detectives in a city or a town investigating a murder or a serious case, a crack team are parachuted in, set up by Garcosh. So that, and they come to this place they don't know, this city they might not know very well, and there's a room in a police station set aside only to be opened up when they come to town, and they start the investigation. So people like Siobhan, Rebus Aswaz, Malcolm Fox are sidelined, which is disastrous. So in this book, Fox is now one of the upper. He's been promoted above his station, and he's now in Garcosh, and he has to come back to Edinburgh to lead an investigation and bring Siobhan in. So there's a lot of tension there because she's a much better cop than him. She should have been the one getting promoted. He gets promoted because of what happened to him at the end of Even Dogs in the Wild, and the powers that be don't want anybody to know that he was rash and unfortunate, so they can promote him to keep him quiet. So there's a lot of antagonism between him and Siobhan, which is great fun. You want drama and you want tension in your story. If you can think of that's that starting point, you've immediately got that.
Well, that's true. I mean, these changes, they make it sound like they're disastrous for real life detection, but good for the writer.
Well, I mean, somebody said all you have to do now is to set up, have your crack team, they're who you're going to write about. And you can take them to anywhere in Scotland. And so you get a different city in each book. In fact, it worked pretty well as a TV show as well. So you'd have this kind of group who get to know each other real well but don't know the local area when you get there. So they're out their depth to a certain extent, having to ask the local cops for help and find a way around, and at the same time work together as a team. So yeah, there's all kinds of, there's drama in that. There's drama in that. It's just very boring to have to explain to people who don't live in Scotland. Look, we've just changed the way we do policing, and by the way, can you keep going along without us laying it out in tedious detail? And it is tedious, and bureaucracy tedious. I'm having dinner with the chief constable. There's a new chief constable just been announced. I'm having dinner with him next week after next in Edinburgh. I'm going to bring some of these things up. When Rebus retired, I mean, it's a story that's been told before, but there was a MSP, a member of the Scottish Parliament called Helen Eady, God bless her soul, no longer with us, and she stood up in Parliament and asked the Justice Minister if he would change the retirement age so that a fictional detective could continue to work. I didn't make any friends in Police Scotland at that point. None of them wanted to work an extra 5 years just so my detective could keep going.
It may have been a big contribution, to changing the age. Well, it's interesting you say dinner with the chief constable, because I was going to ask.
There's a few of us actually. I mean, I forget who's all going, but I think let me think. I think Lynn Anderson might be going to that, and I think Stuart McBride might be going as well. So it's not. I don't know why he wants to meet crime writers.
Well, because you're all such good company. But this question of authenticity I was going to ask, and I wonder where you are on. You might call it the Peter James scale, because he's famous for going out with the police once a week.
I'm not at the Peter James scale. I'm nowhere near the Peter James scale. I'm probably a 3 or a 4. If he's a 10, I'm probably a 3 or a 4. Maybe even a 2 or a 3. I only go to the police when I've got a question or a problem, because I don't want the police to become my friends. I don't want to end up writing PR. For the police. I want to be able to write about bent cops across the line, cops who feel impelled or compelled to cross the line. They'll probably step back over the line, but I want to have that freedom. And so I mean, I've got a few retired cops that I hang around with, but currently serving, there's 1 or 2, but I only go to them, and I'll say something like, look, would you do this in a procedure, or would you do that? Or have you changed the way you do forensics, because the forensic lab has changed its location and stuff. And do you still do bullet analysis in Aberdeen, or is that now done? That kind of stuff. And enough of it, I mean, just a patina, just enough of it so that anybody who knows that stuff goes, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about.